Now, what do you think happens if I set condition to 1 instead of false or true? What do you think we'll see if I hit run? We get executed, so we're reaching this part. The reason for this is that 1 is interpreted as true, and on the other hand, 0, as you will see if I hit run, is interpreted as false. That's common in a lot of languages, and JavaScript is kind of casting your value here, 0 or 1, into a boolean. So it's translating it into true or false. Now what happens if I set condition to 2? Let's see what happens if I hit run. Well, we also get executed. So 2 also gets interpreted as true here. But this is a bit intriguing, to be honest. Let me add a console log statement and print something else. I want to print if 1 equals true. So if I run this, we get executed and then we get true. So 1 equals true. And if I add 1 extra equal sign, we get false, of course, because this is a boolean and this is a number. What happens if I check if 2 equals true? You see we get false. But here, if we set it to 2, this gets executed nonetheless, even though this seems to be not equal to true. So 2 is not equal to true, whilst 1 was equal to true. But if we set the condition here to 2, it somehow still is interpreted as being true, even though we just checked that this is not the case. What's happening here? Well, what's happening here is it's working the other way around. 0 is equal to false. And therefore, JavaScript will treat everything not being equal to 0 as fulfilling this if condition. So basically, 2 is not the same as true, but it's enough to fulfill this condition. Only if we set this to 0 are we explicitly telling JavaScript that this is false. So everything besides 0 will be interpreted as true, even though technically only 1 is equal to true. The rest is only treated as such, but it's not the same. That is important to understand when working with these numbers as booleans. Only 0 and 1 can be cast into booleans. The rest is only treated as true. That is really important to understand. So what if I'm assigning this to a negative value of -1? It's still getting executed. So negative values are treated as true as well. And that is important to understand and be aware of. So I'll get rid of this, but what happens if I set this equal to some text? And now I'm checking condition, which is text. What do you think we'll now see? We still get executed. So text, a string, is also interpreted as true. And what happens if I set this to false? Still, any text is interpreted as true. And what if I set this equal to null? What do you think we'll see now if I hit run? Well, now we get to not executed. So null is treated like false. And this is an important behavior because in more complex applications, you'll often have the case that you want to check if a certain variable is set or if a certain variable is not null. For example, if you're reaching out to some kind of server and you get back the answer sometimes in the future, but you're using the variable before having that answer, you might want to check if it is actually set and not execute any code if it is not set, so if it is null. And therefore it's important that null is treated like false. So that was quite a lot of talking about a generally simple statement, but it is key to understand what is interpreted as true and false, because otherwise you will run into nasty bugs when, well, you try to do something and suddenly things are treated as true or false even though you did not expect that to happen.